Well, this is what our next topic is going to be about. How does the formation of urine takes place? So basically, formation of urine is done in two major steps. The first one is ultrafiltration. Now what actually happens in ultrafiltration is, we have all studied kidney. We all know that kidney contains a functional basic unit, that is its nephron. We also know that the nephron has a Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule consists of a tuft of capillary which is known as the glomerulus. So now the blood that enters the glomerulus is at a very high pressure. So what happens, the glomerulus has two arterioles. One is known as the afferent arteriole, which allows the blood to enter in the glomerulus. The other one is known as the efferent arteriole, which allows the blood to leave the glomerulus. Now, the efferent arteriole is slightly narrower than the afferent arteriole. So as the blood passes through the efferent arteriole, it has to undergo a lot of pressure. The pressure that is created is known as the hydrostatic pressure. Due to this pressure, the blood gets filtered out. So small molecules like urea, glucose, amino acid, etc., along with plasma and a lot of water, is filtered out and it is released into the Bowman's capsule. Now what happens with the remaining part? The remaining part consists of large molecules like you have your blood cells, your RBCs, your protein molecules. These large parts, these large molecules, they return back into the blood. So through the efferent arteriole, they enter into a group of capillaries which is known as the vasa recta. These vasa recta join together to form the renal vein, and through the renal vein, the remaining part, it goes into the vena cava. The part which contains the toxic substances, the small molecules like urea and salts and glucose, this portion is known as the glomerular filtrate. Now since it has been filtered from the glomerulus, it is known as the glomerular filtrate. Followed by the second step that occurs in the formation of urine, it is known as the reabsorption. As we know that the glomerular filtrate which has just entered the Bowman's capsule is not what we called as urine. There still has to be a lot of filter work that has to be done, because there are a lot of important substances inside the glomerular filtrate like your glucose, water molecules, all these ions, important ions, these has to be reabsorbed again. So the reabsorption part is done here. As the glomerular filtrate slides down towards the proximal convoluted tubule, which is also known as the PCT. This is nothing but just the next part which is followed by the Bowman's capsule. As it passes down, water is reabsorbed since it is pretty much required by the body. So the body does not allow wastage of water. Other things like your toxic molecules, the foreign substances which enter your body, they are also eliminated. So as the filtrate passes down through the PCT, water is reabsorbed. Along with the water, there are sodium ions which is also essential for the body, that is also reabsorbed. This process is known as selective reabsorption. When we move towards the DCT, that is the distal convoluted tubule, some substances are added to the filtrate that has to be eliminated from the body. Now these substances are the toxins, the broken down form of the drugs which have been intaken, the foreign particles which enter your body, that is again harmful, so they all have to be excreted. Thus they are added into the filtrate so that as it moves along the nephron, it is eliminated in your urine. This passage is aided through the cells of tubular wall. That's why it is known as the tubular secretion. So the cells of the tubular wall, they actively participate for this kind of passage of your toxins and foreign body. Thus it is known as tubular secretion. The filtrate that is left after the reabsorption and the tubular secretion is called as urine. Please mark this important. I repeat again, the filtrate that lets the reabsorption and tubular secretion is called urine. So now after all the important substances have been reabsorbed and the waste that has to be eliminated is been added to the glomerular filtrate, it is ready to go into the bladder, be stored for a while, and then be eliminated through the urine. So this brings me, how does the urine excretion takes place? So as the urine passes into the collecting duct, it enters the ureter. So ureter is the two tubes that exit from the kidneys and they end into the bladder. This is how urine lands into the bladder. It is stored there for a while, and after a regular interval it is expelled from the urinary bladder through the urethra. Now this is controlled by some sphincter muscles, of course. As you have seen that in babies we do not have these sphincter muscles. That's why they do not have the control over their bladder. They pee anytime and anywhere. But we have these sphincter which is well developed. It is controlled by our nervous system, and as the nervous system send impulse to these sphincter, what happens, they release and then we can pass out. So this process is known as micturition. The process of expelling urine through the urethra, it is known as micturition. Moving forward to physical properties of urine. So there is a small mnemonic which I made for you, which makes it easy for you to remember the physical properties. Beginning with the first one is the color. Now color can vary because of the variation in the pigment, that is the urochrome. How much water has been expelled from your kidneys. If you are drinking excess of water, the urine might be dilute, so you might not have a dark yellow color. Then the volume, obviously that will also vary, like how much of water are you consuming in a day, how much has been eliminated through your sweat. If you are performing any kind of physical activities, then your volume might reduce and your concentration of urine might be high. The pH of urine is about 5 to 8. Protein makes it acidic, whereas vegetables make it a bit alkaline. Odor, the smell that we have, that is basically because of the ammonia that is present in the urine. And the specific gravity is about 1.003 to 1.035. Moving on to the composition of urine. First, mostly it is 95% water, 5% are the solid waste which is dissolved in it. Urine contains two different components. One is known as the organic components and the other is known as the inorganic components. Your organic components includes urea, creatinine, uric acid and other substances. And your inorganic components basically deals with all the ions. This includes your sodium chloride ions, potassium chloride, ammonia and so on and so forth. Now this is an important question because this comes in your MCQs or in your most objective questions. They will either ask you to choose the odd one out, or ask you which are the organic or the inorganic substances. They will ask you to classify whether urea is an organic or an inorganic substance. Uric acid, now since the name acid comes, you all think it's inorganic, but again it is an organic substance. It has to be paid a little heed while you are revising. Please make a note of it. So for the kids, we will discuss the abnormalities of kidneys. And the first abnormality or the disorder of the urine is the hematuria, which is known as the blood cell. So basically when you urinate, there is a blood which is being passed out as well. It gives a red coloration to your urine and that is known as hematuria. This could be due to infection in your urinary tract, or it could be a tumor, or it could also be due to a kidney stone. There are different factors which make it happen. Since your blood vessels, since your RBCs, there are large molecules, they cannot even change their shape. So they are not supposed to be present in your urine. Following is the glycosuria. That is basically because of the glucose molecules which is present in your urine. Now patients who have diabetes, they have excess glucose level which is not even broken down by insulin, since the insulin production is not done. Due to this factor, what happens is that glucose is excreted, it is passed into their urines. So when diabetic patient has to undergo a test, again the urine sample is tested, and in the urine sample if it shows that the glucose is present, then one of the reasons could be diabetes. Moving on to albuminaria, or we also know it as proteinuria. What happens here is, again, protein are large molecules. It has been reabsorbed. It is not allowed to be present in your urine. But in case it does happen due to high blood pressure or due to increased permeability of your Bowman's capsule for some kind of bacterial infection or any other urinary tract infection, that could be the reason that the protein is being present in your urine. Then what we have is the bile pigments. Bile pigments, again, in case if they are found in your urine, it could be due to anemia, jaundice, or maybe other liver diseases, liver cirrhosis, etc. So this is where we are done with the abnormalities in the constituents of urine. Next is the regulation of urine output. Now, we drink a lot of water, but that does not mean the amount of water we drink is directly excreted into the urine. That does not happen. Now, why it doesn't happen? How is the water reabsorbed? It's something we're gonna see next. So the pituitary gland secretes a hormone known as ADH. Now, ADH is secreted by the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. What does ADH basically do is, it absorbs the water from your kidneys. In case if pituitary gland does not produce ADH, in such case what happens is your urine becomes very dilute and a lot of water has been eliminated from your body, which is again not a good sign. Some substances that lead to the increased production of urine are coffee, tea, liquid diets, alcohol, etc. Now the increased production of urine is also known as diuresis. So the substances which are increasing the production of urine are known as diuretics. So these substances are not good because what they allow is they allow a lot of water to be eliminated from your body. Water has always been a very essential component for your body, for all the body cells to perform efficiently. So elimination of excessive water is not a good sign. So the pituitary gland secretes ADH, which absorbs all the water from the kidney. That allows the reabsorption of water, which helps in the concentration of urine, and only the waste products, the toxic substance, the urea, these substances are being eliminated from the body. The substances which are useful for the body is gained back again. Next we have is osmoregulation. It is something that deals with the balance. It maintains the balance. So osmoregulation maintains the water salt balance. Here we have an example of how does that happen. So again, the question that I'm putting forward to you is, have you wondered why do we have frequent urination during winters and not during summers, in spite that the water consumption during summers is high than what we drink during the winters? So the answer is pretty simple. During summer we lose a lot of water through sweating, through perspiration, and since a lot of water has already been expelled out due to sweating so that the body remain cool, we cannot afford more water to be flushed out. So here the kidney reabsorb more and more water from the nephron, and as more and more water is reabsorbed, the urine becomes more concentrated, and therefore we have less frequent urination during summer, whereas that compared to winter. Jumping on to the next topic, that is the artificial kidney. So what is artificial kidney? We all know that one person can survive with one kidney. However, the failure of both kidneys would lead to death. That is the reason we have an artificial kidney. Artificial kidney is nothing but it is known as dialysis. So what happens during dialysis? In case of kidney failure, the person is put on dialysis. This works as in kidney which is actually outside the body. The function is the same. It removes toxic substances from your body and it does not allow a lot of wastage of water, as well as the other important substances which are essential for your body. The patient blood is led from the radial artery, which is in his arm, through the machine where the urea and excess salts are removed, and the purified blood, the blood which has been purified inside the machine, is returned back to the vein in the same arm, as you see in the picture also. In case of a permanent damage to the kidney, dialysis is to be repeated for about 12 hours twice a week. So the person is put on dialysis unless he finds a donor for himself. Well kids, that's all for today. Here are some questions which have been asked in your exams, so I would like you to practice those. Before that, I want you to revise the notes which I have provided for excretory system specially. So I want you to revise that first, and then you can jump onto the exam questions. You can prepare that. Please maintain your notes. The notes that have been provided to you has to be filled out in your notebooks. And after we are done with this, you will be practicing your exam questions. You will be writing the answers to your exam questions. That will be your next home assignment. Well, that's it. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay home, and keep learning.